Hey, what's going on, guys? This is Travis. You probably all better know me as Klaige on SDA, and I'm going to be doing my commentary on my improved Castlevania Bloodlines run. I'm also doing this live on my stream, and if you're curious, this is the fourth attempt I've done at commentary, not at the run. I've actually screwed this up 4 times already. Yeah, so we'll just add that to the reset total. Anyway, um, this is my improved run of John Morris in Bloodlines on Expert mode. This is a vast improvement over my old submitted run from 2011. I cleaned up a lot of things, hit all the glitches I wanted to hit, and just generally have a better run to share with you guys, so I hope you enjoy. Um, First major important part of Bloodlines is this wall that I break right here to get the Bible item, which upgrades your whip and your sub-weapon. The biggest part about doing this game fast is bosses and damage. And the only way to get this upgraded whip, which comes in really handy because it does more damage than almost anything in the game, is by getting that item to drop, which is a 50-50 shot, hence where half my resets come from, or you have to break 30 candles that contain anything but sub-weapons, and then you'll get that upgrade. The fun part about the upgraded whip is that when you get hit, you lose it. So, taking damage in this game is not really an option. There's very few damage boosts and things like that you can use, so... Moving on, that's the first sub-boss in the game, Hellhound. It gives me the worst possible pattern there because of the way lag works in this fight, so that costs me probably a couple seconds. But it's completely random, and honestly, with how much I have to reset due to the 50-50 shot on the Bible, I really don't worry about it. Stage 1, in general here, is the most random and obnoxious stage in the game. There's all sorts of enemies that can take different patterns and things that will just kind of hose what I'm trying to do and cause resets. So, getting through stage 1 is a major hassle. It's nicer to have the randomness be at the start of the game as opposed to late in it, because obviously that would be far more frustrating. But when you spend an hour stuck in stage 1 because the RNG didn't want to play nice, that gets really old. My stream can attest to this. So... legit question. Holy Diver in my stream here brings up a good question. Is jumping faster than walking? For John Morris, yes, jumping is faster than walking. You actually gain, I believe, like 1/100th of a pixel every time you jump in terms of speed. With the other character, Eric Licard, it's actually the opposite. He's faster walking than he is jumping, so you have a little bit of a difference in how you want to handle the speed run with that. I try to jump as much as I can. This first boss here, the Armor Battler, is extremely random, so the fact that I get him to stand still for this entire fight is where the vast majority of the improvement in this stage comes from. If you can keep him from jumping after his initial jump on screen, you're pretty much golden, but that doesn't happen very often, as my stream can also attest to. So that's stage 1, nothing terribly special because you don't actually see all the randomness that can make that stage awful. So things went pretty good there. I think I improved that by about a second. The second stage here is longer and mostly just about execution. There's very little random things here. This is mostly just holding on to the whip throughout the entire stage and hitting all my marks, including one major glitch that skips a sub-boss, which I'll talk about a little bit later. These fishmen are really the only random part of the stage. Sometimes they're going to jump up and smack you in the mouth, and then the run's over, because if you lose the whip before you do the latter half of the stage, you're going to lose so much time that it's an auto reset. This section, basic auto-scrolling, nothing really special. Kind of make my way slowly trotting up here. There's no real way to save time. All you do is just not be an idiot and get hit. Luckily, I managed to handle that pretty well. I have gotten hit in this area quite a few times, which shouldn't happen, but, you know, sometimes you're terrible. These ghost spawns and stuff actually only exist on Expert. They don't actually spawn in the normal difficulty, so luckily they're consistent, and so once you know where they are, you just kind of have to sit and wait, and things go fun. Once we get to the top here, starts a run of 3 mini-bosses, which is probably the most comic run of mini-bosses in gaming history, as far as I'm concerned. You have first the Water Mage, which I think is the greatest mini-boss ever. His grand design is to drown you, slowly, by raising the water and running away and getting hit. And then he dies. Go Water Mage, you're the best. Next, you'll see me collect the axe here. This allows me to skip a sub-boss that comes on the right of the screen. For whatever reason, there's a programming error that causes that boss to back up if you throw an item crash axe. And once it backs up enough, it triggers this other sub-boss that I promptly kill before it ever gets on stream. In my older run, I actually don't kill him in a perfect run there. I miss a couple whip swings, which causes him to get an extra swing of his giant halberd. In this one, I get a perfect fight, which is another probably couple second improvement over my old run. More auto-scrolling here. This is kind of a weird balance in auto-scrolling for this game. Like, in most Castlevanias, you kind of get some auto-scrolling throughout the majority of the game. It's just kind of spaced out. In this game, there's a whole ton of auto-scrolling in stages 2 and 3, and then it's done. There's no more auto-scrolling for the rest of the game. It's kind of a weird setup. So, standard stuff, Medusa heads. As long as excuse me, as long as I stand in normal positions that I'm comfortable with, these always spawn the same way. They're not random like Medusa heads are in a lot of Castlevania games, so they're actually not near as a pain in the butt to deal with. This corridor here is probably the most difficult part of Stage 2. These enemies have really weird hitboxes and damage proration. They take more damage if you hit them in the head, but it's far more difficult to hit them in their lower body unless you can jump at them at an angle. So sometimes they'll take an extra hit, and why I have never really understood. Damage calculations in this game are kind of wonky at times, so luckily for this run, they kind of played nice. All of them took the number of hits I expected, and things go well. Other than that, I just think this section's actually really cool for the whole smashing the background to put in place so you can continue on. One of those unique things that Bloodlines does very well. You see the upgraded super sub-weapon coming in very handy there. The blue snake thing kind of has a mind of its own. It'll track anything that can be hit, which includes candles, so you have to be really careful where you throw it, otherwise it can kind of go off on a tangent and not kill things as quickly as you would like. It comes in very handy for this boss because you can't jump off this platform and go into the water without taking a hit until it gets to a certain level. Right about here. You'll see I'm completely submerged, but it doesn't actually do damage. I'm not sure how it calculates the hitbox on it, but it works out. Other than that, that fight is basically pretty boring. I whittled him down with the sub-weapon, hit him a few times, and he's dead. That's basically a perfect boss fight, so all things go quite well there. Stage 3 is where probably the biggest luck factor in the game outside of the first stage happens, and it happens right off the bat with harpies. And anybody who watched my stream knows that harpies really suck. Really, really suck. Because they're flying enemies, and flying enemies in a speedrun are bad. Most of the time, they'll fly down and stay close enough to take 2 hits and not bother you. Sometimes they just fly away and ruin your day. And the real bad part about harpies is every once in a while you'll hit them, and instead of dying, their heads pop off, and they have this weird bleed animation that lags the hell out of the game. So, luckily in that corridor, they all play nice and I get a perfect section, which is not terribly easy to do because it involves good spacing on my part and then the RNG cooperating. This section, on the other hand, a couple of the harpies decide to be asses right there and cause me a whole lot of slowdown. That honestly was probably like a second to a second and a half loss just in lag, but not a lot I can do about it. This section, when you do the whip swing where you attach your whip to something, you are completely invulnerable to everything, so that comes in really handy for that section. And continuing the idea of lame sub-bosses in this game, we have a bone dragon, a standard Castlevania enemy as a sub-boss. Cool story, Konami. I actually improved that fight quite a bit. I found if I walk a little bit further forward, the first axe I throw is guaranteed to hit twice, which makes that fight go by far quicker, so that's probably a 2 or 3 second improvement over the old submitted run. Almost all of this stage now is auto-scrolling from here on out, so nothing really impressive to say other than these fake Mode 7 graphics always made me chuckle. it actually can cause a problem because the way the hitbox shifts with these ledges is they tilt back and forth. There's been a couple times where I'll accidentally jump up to hit a ledge, and because of the way the hit detection works, if you catch the very, very edge of one when it's tilting backwards, like right as the animation ends, it can actually kick the ledge out from under your hitbox, and then you just fall to your death, which is a really, really embarrassing way to lose a run. This room is one of the first mistakes I make in the run. I get caught on the staircase here by not jumping high enough. I don't know how I did that. I don't think I've ever had that happen. So I fall down and have to re-jump, so that's probably a second. It looks worse than it really is, but it's one of those things that just doesn't really make any sense. Jumping on staircases in this game is actually really easy. It's not like Castlevania 4, where sometimes you just randomly fall through the staircase, even if you're holding up. In this game, if you were holding up at all, you'll basically magnetize to a staircase, and you can jump once you're on a staircase in this game. So, makes life really easy for going up and downstairs. Well, upstairs. Downstairs, you still just kind of have to hold. But there's not very many instances where you actually go downstairs in this game. The bone gargoyle enemies are pretty consistent. What side they come from is random, but their attack pattern is the same, so this is basically just killing time as the auto-scroller goes through. Nothing fun or impressive. Kill a few more of these, and then we'll move on to the boss of Stage 3. I will say the music in this stage gets kind of old when you're running because it's probably the most uninspired track in what is a really good soundtrack for this game. So here I'll pick up the axe. The axe is incredibly useful not just for this boss, but the next level as well. So this boss is consistent. It'll always take the same attack pattern. It has a weird damage ratio to it. You can only hurt it so much in each one of these phases. Even if you do an attack that would do more damage, it won't take it until it falls down and flies back up. This last section I manipulate by walking over to the side of the tower and causing him to fly off to the right, which allows me to hit him 3 times and end that fight. That's pretty much perfect. So, the one thing to note is, even though you see me use a sub-weapon on that boss, as Butters in my stream points out, it's actually not very useful most of the time because sub-weapons do half damage against bosses. The reason I use it there is because it's the only way to consistently hit the bat as it flies through there without putting myself in harm's way of getting hit. So, Stage 4 is the most nightmarish stage ever for speedrunning. There's a plethora of glitches and things I have to do to make this stage go right, and I have to actually do the only damage boost I attempt in this whole game. And to do that, I have to take a hit and lose the whip to set up getting it back. Normally I do it on that skeleton you just saw, but he decided to be a smartass and disappear, so I had to actually stop, back up, and run into him to take the hit, which was a minor annoyance and probably cost me a second and a half. The reason I lose the whip to set up this damage boost is that if I kept the whip all the way through, I would lose it by taking damage and wouldn't get it back in time for the boss, which I really need because the boss of this level has a ton of hit points. So I lose it early and spend time whipping candles to get it back right after I perform this damage boost later in the level. First really difficult part of this level is coming up right here. This is the only time you can do a zip glitch in this game and gain a lot of time for it. You see right here, I use that pendulum to push me into the wall. And when you're stuck in the wall, you can actually manipulate where you go with the left and right directions. So I use it to push myself back out, and that skip is worth about 8.5 seconds over my old run. This room is really difficult for Morris compared to Lecard. Lecard has a super jump, so he just kind of pole vaults his way up this section with no real worries. Whereas Morris, you have to climb this entire tower very tediously. And unfortunately, this Medusa decides to barely dodge that axe, which causes me to get hit. I think that's happened to me, well, never. And I proceed to miss a jump, so that was probably 3.5, 4 seconds. That's probably the biggest mistake in the whole run right there. Not real happy about it, but what can you do? Mistakes happen sometimes. The section with the weighted platforms is really annoying because you have the ghosts chasing you, so you have to really utilize your time, otherwise you can get hit and knocked off quite easily. continuing the trend, another really uninspired mini-boss. And then the really important skips. These blades have terrible hitboxes. Watch for yourself. They're basically 4 small dots on each side of that blade, and if they hit you, they do 17 bars of damage, so you basically die. But I was able to get a consistent route to go through that one, and then what I do is utilize that enemy for that damage boost to push me through the one going the other way. And that room in general, going that way, saves 15 to 20 seconds over doing it the natural way of waiting for the blades to rotate and walking through them. So then you see me pick up the upgraded whip and sub-weapon for this section, which is incredibly slow and tedious. This kind of looks like a mistake with that bat, but honestly, I just have to wait for him to go through. If I want to keep going there, it requires a pixel-perfect, frame-perfect jump and down whip swing to kill that bat and not get hit. And if I get hit, I lose the sub-weapon and runs over, because this boss would take an eternity without the sub-weapon and the upgraded whip. This boss actually has the most HP in the game other than Medusa, if I remember right. Takes a ton of hits. You'll see I throw the sub-weapon there, even though it causes lag. Totally worth it in terms of damage as opposed to waiting for it. Luckily, he gives me a final pattern here that's really easy to deal with, and I actually kill him without having to dodge anything, which is really handy. So yeah, that stage is one of the biggest improvements over the original run. Hitting the zip glitch, which I didn't have in the original run, properly doing the blade damage boost, and jumping through the blade, which I learned from the Taz that Samheim Grimm did for this game. Really make that stage completely execution heavy, but worked out quite well. Stage 5 is rough, honestly. This stage has a lot of just... It's kind of like Stage 4, it's a lot of execution, except there aren't any glitches to deal with. It's just playing the stage. But this stage is littered with enemies that take a lot of hits, and there's no way to really skip them. There's a lot of times where I just have to slow down and kill enemies in this level. Whip swing through there to bypass the first orb. This section with these green swinging plant monkey things, I don't know what the hell you want to call them, I honestly don't know how to handle it without the upgraded sub-weapon. You have to just stop and jump whip them a couple times. There's really no way to do that quickly without the sub-weapon for Morris. This section is really useful because environmental things like the chandeliers will hurt you if they fall on you, but they also one-shot enemies. So you'll see me back up a lot of these axe armors under the chandeliers and then trigger their falling animation, which will immediately kill all these axe armors. Saves a ton of time because axe armors take 5 hits apiece without the with the upgraded whip. Burn the sub-weapon again on this giant scimitar enemy, makes life easy. And then this room, the super sub-weapon saves a bunch of time because it allows me to just walk through this bone pillar. It's one of those things that doesn't look like much until you think about how long it would take to actually whittle that down if you didn't have it. This room was a big snafu in my old run because of me not remembering to finish all my whip swings, which causes an enemy to get stuck at the end of the hallway, and I take a hit, which causes all sorts of issues. This time goes perfect, which is a nice change. This room is borderline auto-scrolling, I guess. As long as you just keep jumping, you're fine. The bone gargoyles and stuff won't hit you as long as you consistently move up the stage, so this isn't too bad of a room. And the bone pillars will never turn and shoot at you until you pass, unless you accidentally whip them, so you can't just kind of flail around like an idiot. This room, another mini-boss. This mini-boss is actually identical to the one I skipped with the item crash glitch earlier on. If you throw an item crash axe at this one, he'll back off and disappear, and then you're stuck forever. This section is the only section the item crash boomerang comes in really handy, because you can use it to take out the 2 archers and immediately pick up back the super sub-weapon. The way to get the super sub-weapon back is if you already have the fully upgraded whip, if you pick up the same sub-weapon you're already carrying, you will get the fully upgraded sub-weapon. So that comes in really handy there. And then this boss is an old optical illusion thing. It's pretty annoying when you're running, but it's actually a really cool idea. You can only hurt this boss when it transforms back into the pillar, and every attack you do to it does exactly the same amount of damage. It doesn't matter if it's an upgraded whip or a boomerang, which does the least damage in the game. The trick with Morris is to hit this boss at least 4 times in one of these rotations. Otherwise, you'll have to wait for a whole nother sequence of it turning into the 2 faces and firing off the laser beams. I actually didn't do that right in my original run. In this one, I'm able to kill it in 3 sequences, which is worth like 8 seconds, so pretty important there. Throw a random sub-weapon for no goddamn reason, because I'm nervous at this point, and hit a button. The boss coming up here could have gone a lot better. She takes a pattern I'd never actually seen before, which is weird. I thought she had a consistent pattern. So I get hit very early here and lose the whip. I actually want to lose the whip in this fight because it sets up stage 6 better, but I don't want to lose it that quickly because it's obviously a lot quicker to kill her. With the upgraded whip, she should be dead now. So as you can see, that was probably 3 or 4 seconds worth of mistakes, just because she decided to move forward instead of back, which I had never seen up until this point. And according to my XSplit counter, I had well over 1,000 attempts, so yeah, a little random there. But for such a massive change in randomness to only cost 3 seconds, I really can't complain too hard for all intents and purposes. So at the end of the day, I get through it, and I'm set up for stage 6 how I want to be set up, because I don't want to start with the whip. There's a lot of things in this stage that can hit you, and I prefer to get the whip right before you start the boss rush at the end of the game, as opposed to trying to hold on to it throughout the stage. It's just a huge, basically it just lessens the burden and the pressure of going through the final stage of a run, and it literally costs almost 0 time to not use the upgraded whip for this section. The only thing it costs is an extra hit animation on a couple enemies, so like literally frames. I'm not losing seconds or anything by not having the upgraded whip. You see the optical illusion effects that go into these rooms here for the final stage. It's really goofy on your eyes, but once you understand where to look, it's not too bad. In this room, left and right are not reversed, but your up and down actually are, so it's important to change what you're doing to catch onto the stairs in this section. Whipping down there stops that orb, otherwise you fall on it and die. It's another reason I really like the regular whip, because it actually has faster startup, which makes that little trick there a lot easier to do. And then this room, you have armor battlers that come in randomly from one side or the other. The first one always comes in from the right, and then after that it's a guess. This is the main room for why I don't like to have the upgraded whip. Because even though you can always kill these things before they hit you, you have to time your jumps just right. So it's just easier for me to collect the upgraded whip right after this room and not have to worry about it. I don't need it to kill them in one hit, so it makes life easier. You see turn jumping there causes me to not lose any momentum. See, like right there, take a hit, kill it, and get the whip back. That was actually incredibly close to being botched run. If I would have picked up the upgrade and gotten hit again, it would have been done. So I pick up the axe for the boss rush because it's incredibly useful for refighting a couple of the enemies. Death is really uninspired in this game as in fighting himself. However, he does make you refight 3 bosses you already fought, so there's that going for him. All these bosses in these refights that you've seen earlier in the game take double damage compared to what they used to, so they all die really, really quickly. As you recall, the gear boss from stage 4 took a very long time. This time, not so much. So, the refights are all pretty simple. The most difficult one is the last one you'll see me do, which is the stone golem from stage 2. The reason he's difficult is because instead of starting on the water platform like you do in stage 2, you're just on the ground and he starts walking at you. But you still have to whittle him down to hit him. And he's incredibly random with his movement and attacks, so you have to play super safe against him. The refight of the bat gargoyle, pretty boring. He does the same exact thing, except now you knock him off the screen in 2 hits as opposed to 3, so, you know, cool story. Again, the axe comes in super handy here because I can just throw it, not have to put myself in harm's way to get a hit off. I missed my first attack there, which is kind of annoying, but doesn't cost more than a second because he comes right back to you, so. No harm, no foul there. So a couple more refights here, and then we'll move on to death. These shots of deaths are, yes, they are as easy to dodge as they look. You literally just walk away. Okay, here's the Stone Golem refight I was talking about. You just have to play really respectful here as Morris. Lacard can literally spam his super sub weapon, and this fight's done. Like, he doesn't have to think. I have to chuck a lot of axes and constantly whittle him down. You'll see me not run forward because I have to respect the fact those rocks could fall. They'll never fall at the very, very back of the screen, hence why I went back there. All in all, that's a pretty good refight. About average on the luck. I don't really make any major mistakes. I don't have to back up too much. He's been far, far more of a dick to me in that fight, so I don't have anything to complain about too hard. Move on, knock off another one of Death's cards, and then fight Death. And yeah, Death is really lame in this game. This is a super boring fight when you have the upgraded whip, and you'll see why. And 1, 2, 3, 4, dead. That fight's actually somewhat difficult and annoying if you don't have the upgraded whip, but with the upgraded whip and Morris's reach on high up enemies, it's a joke. Next, we have the fight that cost me 3 or 4 submittable runs while I was doing this again, all because of one horrifying jump, and that's Medusa. This boss isn't really hard, except for one thing, and that's dodging her tail whip. These shots lag the game out and stuff, but they're not hard to deal with. You just kind of wail on her. She has a ton of health, so this takes forever. But this, right here, that's the scariest jump ever. I can't really describe to you how difficult that is to hit in a run. If you've ever been in my stream, you watched me fail that like 3 times with incredibly good times and get really mad. So, but things worked out alright there. And then we go into another really, really boring boss fight. I don't know what this game's obsession is with bosses, that they just decide to have teleport back and forth, but that's just literally all this fight is, and it takes forever, because the only hit that damages Elizabeth Bartley here is the last one when you shatter the last orb of however many she summons. So all these hits are nothing. You're just getting rid of these magical orbs. And then the last one actually counts. And just to be trolls, they make it so that you have to do an extra cycle, even with the upgraded whip, because she'll always end up with 1 health bar left after her final cycle, or her next to last cycle. Because Konami's a bunch of dicks. So yeah, back and forth, all day. See, it looks like you're looking up and you go, oh, okay, cool, 1 last cycle. Oh wow, there's 6 orbs, that's kind of annoying, but it's alright, this is really easy and straightforward. No, that would be too nice. Konami's not down with that. If you jump too early, she will teleport the other way, which is kind of annoying, but once you have the timing down, this is a really, really straightforward and boring fight. So 1 more cycle, just to be assholes. And okay, thanks, die. So at this point, I'm feeling pretty good about potentially getting this run finally done. Dracula has 3 forms, but thankfully they're all pretty consistent. And the best part is you get to hear Simon's theme before you even do this, which is a pretty cool reward. Because, yeah, who doesn't like Simon's theme? I mean, come on. So, set up for the almighty final battle here. The first form of Dracula is actually insanely consistent. He doesn't do random teleports in this game. They're scripted. They always go the same way no matter what. So, that helps out, makes life a little bit easier. His attacks are also really easy to dodge. As long as you just jump and hold the whip out as you fall, you'll annihilate whatever he throws at you. So, this section is actually really simple as long as you just don't screw up your timing, and you have a pretty wide window to hit it. So, this is a nice and simple start to the final boss fight. So, things go well here. 1 more hit, I believe, and then we move on to the second form. This second form is a little bit more random, but You can kind of manipulate it by throwing the super sub weapon at him and causing him to come back down into a range you can hit with the whip. So I let him teleport around, and then, yeah, wail on him, dodge these two, and that's basically perfect. There's one pattern he can take that's a little bit faster, but I literally could say nothing in terms of complaint. And final form here just has a bunch of health and lags the game a lot. Time here to kill that bone boomerang, start wailing on him. For some reason I jump backwards out of sheer nervousness, but that actually plays into my favor because he gets stuck in this animation instead of doing flame breath, which you have to stop to deal with. I take a hit, lose the whip there, which isn't a big deal because once I get to this form, it's actually just as fast for me to kill him with the axe and regular whip as it would be to try and hit him with the upgraded whip. And that is that. That is a completed run. If you were watching my stream, or if you want to go check out the archive, I have this saved on my Twitch page. If you want to hear the live commentary of me, talking while playing the game, I'll just forewarn you to turn down your speakers before Dracula dies. I may or may not have yelled a lot. So, that is a completed run of Castlevania Bloodlines. This was a lot of work. Like I said, my XSplit counter was over 1,000 attempts by the time it was all said and done, and that was from restarting, not from the beginning. So, God knows how many attempts I've made at this game to get this far, but the important part is you can watch the ending, but the real important part is that shoutouts need to come. And first and foremost, shoutouts need to be given to Warren Saporis. And what I'm really saying is that shoutouts need to be given to my stream. When I would be working on this and having bad nights or frustrating runs or a billion resets in a row, I had a lot of really awesome regular stream viewers who helped keep me sane. And probably the greatest moment that kind of pushed me through in the last week and a half was when one of my stream viewers commented that they thought John Morris's sprite looked like Warren Sapp with a whip. And I was kind of delirious for having run the game for about 3.5 hours at that point. So I decided to challenge my stream to Photoshop Warren Sapp onto John Morris sprites and pictures. And for those of you who don't know, Warren Sapp is a Hall of Fame defensive lineman from the NFL back in the day. He's a very, very large black man with a hilarious face. And I got the most absurd submissions from my stream, and by God did it help take off some of the tension. So Warren Saporis is a constant figure in my stream now. I always keep a couple pictures up when I'm streaming or chilling out, and yeah, he helped a lot, but the fact is he wouldn't exist if it wasn't for the stream. So for all you guys that sat and watched me fail this time and time again and gave me encouragement when I was falling on my face and ready to light my freaking cartridge on fire, this run is all about you guys. I could not have done this on my own. There's no way. Like, I would have quit forever ago if I hadn't had people in the stream going, cheering me on and keeping me sane, and sometimes just forcing me to laugh and not quite take the whole thing so seriously. So, this is definitely for all you guys. Shoutouts especially to Stansky, who did the original run with Eric Licard on SDA. The base for my routes kind of came from him, and then, like I said earlier, the Taz from Samheim Grimm on Taz videos definitely laid a lot of the groundwork for the glitches and the routes and stuff I use in this run. So, and then, yeah, shoutouts to all my regulars who come in the stream. You guys are awesome. Shoutouts especially to Josh the Funk Dog. Him running Castlevania games a couple years ago is kind of what got me into trying speedruns in the first place, so I definitely wouldn't be here if not for him. And, yeah, it's been fun. I'm really proud of this run. There's improvements to be made, but I don't think there's enough improvements to be done that I'm going to be working on it again anytime soon. So, don't know what my next project's going to be, but I hope you guys enjoyed this, and I appreciate all the feedback and following, and yeah, thanks again, and until I see y'all next time, peace out.